I was reborn on the day my husband was critically ill. I immediately went to a private fertility clinic to replace my husband's frozen sperm. The hospital notified me to identify the body. I took my husband's nearly stiff hand and pressed his fingerprint onto the share transfer agreement. Just as the funeral was about to end, my husband's first love arrived with a lawyer and a will. The doctor issued a critical condition notice in accordance with Wu Yu's wishes. Family members entered the ward one by one to see him for the last time. As his parents-in-law emerged from the ward in tears, Wu Yu's personal assistant, Jiang Qi, closed the door. "Madam, President Wu said he couldn't bear for you to see him in his final moments. Please, you don't need to go in." My mother-in-law wiped her tears and pleaded, "Yesheng, I know how deep your love is, and Wu Yu couldn't bear to see you grieve. Please, do as he wished." My father-in-law's tone was firm. "Consider this his final wish, don't be unreasonable." Staring at the closed hospital room door, my heart lurched, and a chill spread through my body. I never could have imagined that Wu Yu, whom everyone praised for cherishing his wife above all else, was a complete and utter fraud. "What do you mean you can't bear to part with me?" He just wanted to avoid me so he could secretly meet his long-lost love, Song He, who just returned from abroad, and settle his final affairs with her. In my past life, I truly believed Wu Yu was afraid of hurting me. Like a fool, I knelt outside the hospital room, weeping and begging him to let me see him one last time. I knelt there for a full 5 hours, until his heart stopped beating, and still, the door to that room never opened. Burying my grief and regret, I forced myself to hold it together to handle Wu Yu's funeral arrangements. Just as the funeral was about to conclude, Song He walked in, accompanied by a lawyer and carrying Wu Yu's will. The lawyer then and there announced that Wu Yu had previously cryopreserved his sperm at a private reproductive facility. The will stipulated that the frozen sperm was for Song He's use exclusively, and that all of Wu Yu's assets and company shares would be inherited by his child. Before I could even process the shock, my in-laws jumped in to accuse me. "You refused to have a child for 5 years of marriage, dragging it out until my son fell ill and died. You vicious woman. You just want our Wu family line to die out. Our Wu family has treated you well. If you dare stop Song He from having a child, I will dash my brains out right here in this funeral hall today." My in-laws, weeping and wailing, laid all the blame squarely on my shoulders. But it was Wu Yu who never wanted children. I was the one who, to ensure the Wu family line continued, even secretly poked holes in the condoms. "I'm already carrying his posthumous child." My loud explanations were drowned out by the relatives' accusations. "After all the kindness Wu Yu showed you, you couldn't even bear him a child. You must have been a shrew at home, only daring to secure your own future after driving your husband to his death. You're so selfish. It should have been you who died." The furious relatives drove me out of the funeral. I went home in a daze, only to get into a car accident on the way. Just before I died, I saw Song He in another car. Passing me by, I heard her vicious voice loud and clear. "Only I am worthy of bearing his child. You are not." That's when I realized Song He had overheard what I said. Fearing my unborn child would claim the inheritance, she orchestrated a car crash to kill me. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day Wu Yu was critically ill. Since I've been given a second chance at life, I'm determined to turn the tables and reclaim everything that's rightfully mine. If you truly want to see Wu Yu one last time, you'd better get down on your knees and beg him. He might just take pity on you," my mother-in-law suggested. Her eyes cast downward. In my past life, I took her advice and ended up kneeling for 5 agonizing hours. The searing pain in my knees haunted me until the day I died. At the funeral, my in-laws were not surprised by Song He's arrival. They even twisted the facts to speak in his defense, clearly having been in the know all along. My mother-in-law has always bullied me because I was orphaned and had no one to back me up. Now, these words that sound like concern are clearly just another attempt to humiliate me. I forced out some tears and shook my head regretfully. "You're right, Dad. This was Wu Yu's dying wish. As his wife, I should honor it." With that, I turned and walked away. "Stop right there." My father-in-law called out to me. "Where do you think you're going? My son only has a few hours left. If you leave, who's going to handle the funeral arrangements? Do you expect us old folks to do it?" I choked back a sob. "I just can't bear to watch him go. Please, if anything happens, I'll come back immediately." My mother-in-law whispered to him, "Let her go." Inside, the voices cut off abruptly. I didn't need to look to know my in-laws were exchanging a glance. Right, Song He was still in the hospital room. They could only say their fearless goodbyes once I left. Sure enough, my father-in-law said, "Don't go too far." I gave a non-committal and left. Once outside the hospital, I immediately pulled up directions to the private fertility clinic where Wu had his sperm frozen. I pushed the door open. A young man was sitting at the reception desk, a name tag pinned to his chest that read, Lin Hao. I walked up to him. My husband has sperm stored here. Could you help me check on it? Lin Hao didn't look up. Sorry, we don't offer that service. Just as I expected, I pressed on. I want to speak to your manager. Only then did Lin Hao glance at me, his tone impatient. I am the manager, like I said. It can't be done. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, and what if I were to buy out your entire agency? Lin Hao's eyes widened instantly. What, are you out of your mind? I chuckled. Name your price. Lin Hao's eyes lit up. 5 million. I pulled out the chair and sat down slowly. I did some research. Your facility has been operating for 3 years, using the world's most advanced technology, guaranteeing an activated sperm survival rate of over 90%. Unfortunately, the fees are too high. You've been operating at a loss since day one, but with the contracted member sperm stored here, you can't just shut down even if you wanted to. Lin Hao rolled his eyes. The cost is 1 million, not a penny less. Deal. After making the payment, Lin Hao pulled up the member information. After locating Wu Yu, I continued scanning the list, and my gaze settled on an English name. Lin Hao explained with a hearty laugh. He's an African. He broke the law here in the country. Before he got caught, he came to leave his seed, thinking that if there was any chance, he could still leave behind an heir. A smirk touched my lips. He's the one. 3. I had just stepped out of the lab when my phone rang. As soon as I answered, my mother-in-law's sobbing voice came through. Yi Xing, Wu Yu is gone. The doctor says we need to sign the paperwork for the body. You have to come back now. I responded immediately. I'm on my way back. Mom, please accept my condolences. After hanging up, I composed myself and, on an impulse, drove straight to the office with the share transfer agreement printed. I rushed to the hospital without a moment's delay. The company was founded by Wu Yu and me after we graduated from university. We each held a 40% stake, with the remaining 20% distributed proportionally among 5 other investors in my past life. When Song He showed up at the funeral with a lawyer, that was when I found out that, the day before we got our marriage certificate, Wu Yu had secretly bought the remaining shares behind my back, giving him a controlling stake of 60%. Once Song He gave birth and inherited Wu Yu's shares, she would have the final say over the entire company. At the hospital, the ward was filled with the sound of weeping. As soon as I entered, my mother-in-law lunged at me and slapped me across the face. Where have you been? Get on your knees now. The wailing in the hospital room quieted down, and pairs of eyes darted over, eager not to miss a bit of the drama. Biting back the pain and fury, I lowered my head and said, I'm sorry, I was in too much of a hurry and got into an accident. That's why I'm late. Only then did everyone notice the patch of blood staining the fabric over my knee. An elder immediately spoke up. Oh my, his knees are scraped raw like that. Tell the child to stop kneeling. And you, hitting someone without even getting the full story. This is really too much. My mother-in-law was taken aback for a moment, then quickly changed the subject. I was just too anxious. Hurry up and sign the papers to identify the body. Don't keep my son waiting too long. After signing, I collapsed onto Wu Yu's body and wept, following it all the way to the door of the morgue. The body will be kept here overnight before being transferred to the funeral home tomorrow, the doctor said gently. My condolences. You can't come in here. As everyone else had dispersed, I looked up with tear-filled eyes. Doctor, I didn't get to see my husband one last time. Could I please have a moment alone with him? Just 5 minutes. The doctor hesitated for a moment, then reluctantly agreed and quietly walked to the corner of the stairwell. With my back to the security camera, I held Wu Yu and whispered my goodbyes, while my hand slipped the share transfer agreement out from inside my clothes. I lifted Wu Yu's nearly stiff finger, first dabbed it in the red ink pad on the knee, then pressed it onto the signature line of the stock transfer agreement. After completing this, I called for the doctor and immediately turned to leave. For at the hospital entrance, Jiangqi approached and handed over a list. Madam, these are some of Mr. Wu's requests for the funeral arrangements from before his passing. You'll need to prepare accordingly. Wu Yu was a meticulous and exacting man, and his standards for his own funeral were exceptionally high. In my past life, I spent several sleepless nights working through the checklist to prepare everything, all to fulfill his final wishes. Yet in the end, it all became a testament to my own humiliation. I didn't reach out. Instead, I looked at Jiangqi. If I remember correctly, you've been working under Wu Yu for 4 years since you joined the company. Jiangqi was taken aback for a moment before replying. Yes, I sighed. So, with Wu Yu gone now, where in the company should we place you? Jiangqi said hurriedly. Before he left, President Wu instructed that I should take charge of the administration department. I looked up. Oh. Has the appointment already been made? Not yet, Jiang. Qi's eyes widened abruptly, his grip tightening on the list in his hand. Mr. Yi, I'm sorry, please don't trouble yourself with these things, I'll take care of the preparations. I smiled, picked up the list, and tore it to shreds. No need to prepare any of this, go contact the funeral home and downgrade the service to the most basic package. The person is already dead, spending that much money is a waste. Jiangqi froze. Not daring to say a word, I stepped closer to him, a faint smile curling my lips. I actually feel rather sorry for you. You did so much for Wu Yu, yet even on his deathbed, he was still wary of you. He held back your promotion, making you pour all your effort into putting Song He in power. But have you ever stopped to think? 10 months is more than enough time for the world to turn upside down. When that time comes, where will you stand? Jiangqi's pupils contracted sharply. He stumbled back 2 steps in shock. President Yi, you know everything. My smile vanished. I know far more than you can imagine. I'm giving you a chance now. Pledge your loyalty to me. After the funeral, I will immediately appoint you as the administrative department manager, plus grant you 10% of the company's shares. Think it over carefully, give me your answer as soon as possible. With that, I turned and walked away. I had just gotten in the car when Jiangqi's message arrived. Director Yi, the funeral arrangements have been adjusted per your request. 5. I've left all matters regarding the funeral for Jiangqi to handle. During the year Wu Yu was ill, I barely slept a full night. It took me 2 whole days of rest to finally recover. On the day of the funeral, I arrived at the funeral home right on time, following the map Jiangqi gave me. I wound my way through twists and turns to a cramped little hall. Inside was a noisy hubbub. A crowd of guests was packed together, sweltering and wiping sweat from their brows, waiting with impatient expressions. My in-laws' faces were dark with anger, and they didn't dare look up. I squeezed my way in and stood next to my in-laws. The moment she saw me, my mother-in-law glared, raising her hand to slap me. This time I was prepared. I grabbed her arm and shoved her back. My mother-in-law stumbled and fell to the ground, grimacing in pain. With tears in my eyes, I cried out hysterically, "Mom, what are you doing? Do you have to humiliate me in front of my late husband?" The hall fell silent. Instantly my mother-in-law got to her feet. "I'm humiliating you. It's you who's disgracing my son. He was a respected business owner, and you arranged for this place. You may have no shame, but our Wu family still has its dignity." The father-in-law was so angry he was huffing and puffing. "This is absolutely outrageous." I choked back a sob, my voice trembling. "Mom, Dad, you've got it all wrong. This was Wu Yu's own arrangement before he passed. He said there weren't any important people to impress, so there was no need for a lavish funeral." As soon as the words were spoken, the hall erupted into a buzz of murmurs. So we took time off to come to this funeral, and it turns out Mr. Wu looked down on us all along. What the hell? I even lent him money when he was starting his business. Well, he's a big shot now. Why would he bother with the likes of us? As everyone cursed, my father-in-law's face flushed with embarrassment. Impossible. My son is not that kind of person. I shot a silent glance at Jiangqi. Jiangqi immediately stepped forward. It was indeed arranged by President Wu. Jiangqi was Wu Yu's loyal dog. No one would doubt his word. The in-laws were left speechless. The cursing in the auditorium grew louder, and some people even turned to leave. At that moment, I bowed deeply to the guests. On behalf of Wu Yu, I apologize to everyone. Please bear with us a little longer. After the funeral, I will personally provide each of you with compensation. I beg of you. Wu Yu's reputation can be ruined, but the company's cannot, and mine even less so. The guests' anger subsided. All right, since Mrs. Wu has said so, we should just bear with it. What Mrs. Wu? That's CEO Yi. I remember the company was built by the two of them back in the day. If you ask me, given Wu Yu's character and how he handles things, I'd bet Yi Xing was the one who really held the company together. Public opinion was already shifting. I straightened up. Let's begin. The funeral proceeded in an orderly fashion, yet the atmosphere was distinctly odd. No one was grieving, no one shed a tear, and few even stepped forward for the final viewing. I cast a cold glance at Wu Yu in the ice coffin before looking away, unwilling to spare another look. The funeral was drawing to a close, and I was preparing to see the guests off. A cool, detached voice drifted in. "Friends and family, please stay a moment. I need you all to witness something. Song-hee made his entrance, dressed in black with a white flower in his hair, accompanied by a lawyer and a will. I glanced up briefly, my heart pounding with excitement. The show is finally about to begin. 1 year ago, Mr. Wu Yu deposited frozen sperm at the institution. The will states that this frozen sperm is for the exclusive use of Ms. Song-hee. All property under Mr. Wu Yu's name and his company's shares will be inherited by his child. The lawyer paused for a second, set down the will in his hand, and continued, according to the information provided by Mr. Wu Yu, he acquired the remaining 20% of the company shares the day before registering his marriage with Ms. Yi Xing. The 60% shareholding he currently possesses constitutes premarital property and will be divided according to the will. The moment the lawyer finished speaking, the in-laws immediately sprang forward. You've been married for 5 years and still refuse to have a child, dragging it out until my son died of his illness. You wicked woman, you just want to end the Wu family line. Our Wu family has treated you well. If you dare try to stop Song-hee from having this child, I'll dash my brains out right here in this funeral hall today. With that, the mother-in-law made as if to hurl herself against the ice coffin. Unlike in her past life, none of her friends or family stepped forward to stop her, nor did anyone utter a word. An eerie silence fell over the hall. Song-hee's eyes darted, and she stepped forward to block the older woman's path. Auntie, don't worry, Wu Yu and I grew up together. Whether I inherit anything or not, I'll help with this. Wu Yu never dared to mention the child to Yi Xing, even until his death. She must have been unwilling to endure the pain of childbirth. I'll suffer in her stead. She would surely agree. The father-in-law snorted coldly. She doesn't have a choice. This is my son's will. It concerns the Wu family lineage and has nothing to do with her. Yi Xing, a relative of the Wu family, finally stepped forward. Yi Xing, continuing the family line is of utmost importance. Since you don't want to have children, and someone else is willing, you shouldn't stand in the way. Exactly. The Wu family has had only one male heir for 5 generations. The line cannot be allowed to die out. It seems only fair that the personal assets should be inherited by the Wu family's descendants. I've heard that the marital relationship is automatically dissolved upon the death of one spouse. Yi Xing really has no right to interfere. I ignored these remarks and turned to the lawyer. Mr. Chen, I'd like to confirm one point. Does my husband's will specify the shareholding percentages? The lawyer paused, picked up the will, and examined it carefully before replying. It does not. However, Mr. Wu Yu provided proof of ownership, so that's how it is. I thought to myself with a sigh, then looked up at the others. I have no objection to Song-hee giving birth to the Wu family's child, and I certainly won't stand in the way of the will taking effect. My mother-in-law scoffed lightly. At least you know what's good for you. My father-in-law stood with his hands clasped behind his back and laid out the plan. For the 10 months of Song-hee's pregnancy, you are to take care of her health. You will be held fully responsible for any problems that arise with her or the child. As for the company, you are to mentor Song-hee and help her get up to speed with the operations as quickly as possible. Once the shares are transferred after my grandson is born, she must be ready to take over the management of the company immediately. Song-hee's eyes lit up, gleaming with greed and smugness. Thank you, uncle. I will certainly live up to your expectations. I will bear a son for the Wu family and do my utmost to manage the company well. Wait, I interrupted. You must have made a mistake. The shares Song-hee's son can inherit amount to only 1%. 7. Song-hee was taken aback for a moment, then let out a sigh. Little sister Yi Xing, I know it's difficult to fully accept this, but saying such baseless things is pointless. Attorney Chen chimed in. We have also verified with the business registry that Mr. Wu Yu indeed holds 60% of the shares in your company. The in-laws immediately followed with accusations. Everyone just heard what you said. Don't go back on your word now and make a fool of yourself. You still have the other 40% of the shares. Don't be so greedy. I silently took the share transfer agreement out of my bag. 2 weeks ago, Wu Yu already transferred 59% of the shares to me. I was planning to go and register the change after the funeral. I never expected something like this to happen. As lawyer Chen also stated, the will does not specify the shareholding percentages. Therefore, Song-hee's child can only inherit the remaining 1%. If you don't believe me, you can ask Jiang Qi. Jiang Qi suppressed the shock in his eyes and said, yes, Mr. Wu asked me to prepare the share transfer agreement half a month ago. Impossible. Song-hee's eyes widened as he reached out to snatch the share transfer agreement. I sidestepped to avoid him and handed the share transfer agreement to lawyer Chen. Song-hee shot me a glare. then turned anxiously to Lawyer Chen. Please, take a look. Is it a forgery? Lawyer Chen flipped through the pages, swallowing hard. The equity transfer agreement predates the will, and the signature is indeed Mr. Wu Yu's handwriting. If the fingerprint is genuine, then Mr. Wu Yu's child would indeed only inherit 1%. After working with Wu Yu for so many years, I'd long since learned to mimic his handwriting. As for the fingerprint, however, there's no faking that, I said without a change in expression. You're welcome to have the fingerprint tested. My conscience is clear. My in-laws exchanged glances, wanting to say something but unable to get the words out. I looked at the stunned Song He and said with sincerity, Song He, I don't know what Wu Yu promised you, but you said you would help the Wu family have an heir no matter what. I ask that you keep your word. The crowd began to murmur, this sounds a bit off, but I just heard it clearly. This Ms. Song said she would help have the child, regardless of whether she can inherit or not. I heard it too. Why isn't she saying anything? She didn't change her mind after hearing there's only 1% of the shares left, did she? What a hypocrite. Good thing the company didn't end up in her hands. Hearing these words, the in-laws grew anxious. The mother-in-law grabbed Song He's arm. Xiao Song, you can't back out now. The Wu family line must not die out. The father-in-law said anxiously, Wu Yu told us you're the most important person in his life. It's just about having a child. If you don't want to raise it later, we'll do it for you. Song He lowered her eyes, subtly withdrew her hand from the mother-in-law's grasp, and slowly stepped back. It seemed she had no intention of agreeing. This won't do. I can't just let that million go to waste. I began. You and your child's livelihood is completely secure. Apart from company shares, Wu Yu's personal assets are worth at least 50 million RMB. In other words, as long as you bear Wu Yu's child, all this money will be yours. Song He's head snapped up, his eyes instantly lighting up. Uncle, aunt, you have my word. I will honor my promise and bear a child for the Wu family. Song He had taken the bait. The in-laws were visibly moved, their eyes brimming with emotion. The Wu family relatives also vied with each other to praise Song He. However, there were many astute observers present, and everyone exchanged glances with inscrutable expressions. After the farce, the funeral proceeded smoothly to its conclusion. As promised, I have provided a compensation payment to each guest in attendance that goes without saying for family and friends. There were also many company employees and partners present today. The future operation and growth of the company will depend on their support. After the cremation, my in-laws wanted to take Wu Yu's ashes. Naturally, I didn't stop them. On the way back, I glanced at Jiangqi, who was driving. You did well today. Your appointment letter will arrive tomorrow. After the equity transfer is complete, I'll give you 10%. Jiangqi's breath hitched for a second. Thank you, President Yi. Where are you headed now? I closed my eyes. To the hospital. I need a minor procedure. It was time to deal with the posthumous child in my womb. 9. The handwriting and fingerprints checked out, and as Wu Yu's widow, the share transfer registration went smoothly. I rightfully took my seat in the company's largest office. Word came from Lin Hao that Song He had retrieved the frozen sperm and conceived a child through IVF. My in-laws were over the moon, attending to Song He's every need without leaving her side. My mother-in-law even came to the office to warn me not to try anything, or she'd make me pay. I thought she was crazy, so I had her thrown out just like that. 10 months flew by. That day, I went to the hospital to pick up some medicine and ran into my in-laws on my way downstairs. I glanced at the delivery room, from which screams kept echoing, and understood. Song He was going into labor. My interest was instantly piqued, and I walked over. My in-laws looked over, their expressions tense as if facing a formidable enemy. What are you doing here? I'm warning you. Song He is about to give birth. Don't you dare try anything with my grandson. I stifled a laugh. How could that be? I was Wu Yu's wife. After all, coming to see his child is just my way of showing I still care. My mother-in-law smirked. I think you're just jealous because you couldn't bear my son a child. The doctor said my grandson has long legs and arms. He's going to be a real athlete. My father-in-law said with a proud look. It's all in the Wu family genes. Once the boy's a bit older, we'll nurture him properly. Who knows, our Wu family might just produce an Olympic champion. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. My father-in-law shot me a cold look. What's so funny? The lawyer told me that a lot of Wu Yu's estate is real property, and your name is on it. Once my grandson is born, you'd better go and get your share sorted out quickly. Don't let it affect my grandson's education. My mother-in-law glared at me. If you dare to transfer any assets, we will absolutely take you to court. I smiled and said, don't worry. As long as the child Song Hee gives birth to is Wu Yu's, I won't touch a single penny of that inheritance. My mother-in-law rolled her eyes. Obviously, my son has loved Song Hee all along. That's why he had a child with her. You, how pathetic. My father-in-law sneered. Back when you and my son started the business together, he only married you to keep you on his side. Did you really think he loved you? Honestly, I'd already figured that out. Otherwise, why would you keep saying he didn't want kids, yet secretly leave frozen sperm for Song Hee? Because of our marital relationship, I always cooperated with Wu Yu on company matters and never suspected him. Instead, it gave him the opening to secretly acquire shares. Wu Yu feared me, schemed against me, but he never loved me. Thankfully, fate intervened. Wu Yu was struck with an incurable illness, giving me a chance to start over. Lost in thought, the agonized screams from the delivery room suddenly ceased. The husband's parents surged forward in excitement. It's born. The Wu family finally has an heir. My son, you've finally gotten your wish, having a child with the one you love. I promise, I will keep my word and take good care of the mother and child. Just then, the delivery room door swung open. A nurse emerged holding a bundle, her expression odd. Who's here for Song Hee? The grandparents immediately called out. We're the baby's grandparents. Let us see our precious grandson. The nurse took a step back. You're the father's parents. The in-laws grew frantic. That's right. What are you doing? Give us our grandson now. As she handed over the swaddled baby, the nurse cautioned, prepare yourselves. This is the child Ms. Song Hee gave birth to. 10 A dark, soy sauce complexion, a head of tight curls, and full lips, a typical African appearance. The in-laws' outstretched hands froze mid-air as they stared at the nurse in disbelief. Impossible. This isn't our grandson. You must have made a mistake. My son and Song Hee are both fairer than average. How could they possibly have a child like this? The nurse said helplessly. Ms. Song Hee is the only one in the delivery room. This is her child. She's exhausted and has fallen asleep now. If you have any questions, you'll have to wait until she wakes up. Please take the baby to the ward first. The mother needs to be monitored for another hour. With that, the nurse placed the swaddled baby into the grandmother's arms and turned to go back inside. The grandparents looked carefully at the child in their arms, then at each other. At a complete loss, I walked over, furrowing my brow. Well, I suggest you get a paternity test. The mother-in-law's hands trembled as she held the child. There must be some mistake. This can't be possible. The father-in-law's face turned ashen. What nonsense. This child can't possibly be from the Wu family. Song Hee must have been fooling around outside, and now she wants my son's inheritance. What a vicious woman. Seeing the murderous look in their eyes, I quietly slipped out of the room. It's not hard to imagine what Song Hee's future will be like, but she brought all of this on herself. If she hadn't sold her body for money, I wouldn't have gotten this chance for revenge. I learned from the lawyer that my father-in-law still took the child for a paternity test. The result was predictable. Song Hee's child had no relation whatsoever to the Wu family. Wu Yu's estate will proceed through the legal inheritance process, my in-laws, and I will split the 50 million evenly, and Song Hee won't get a single cent. 7 days later, while I was at work in the office, my assistant informed me that Song Hee wanted to see me. I thought for a moment, put down my pen, and said, let her in. 11 Song Hee's face was deathly pale, his body still seemed weak, yet his eyes were brimming with hatred. Yi Xing, you've been reborn, haven't you? My heart skipped a beat, but I fought to keep my face calm. I don't know what you're talking about, Song Hee revealed a chilling smile. Don't bother lying to me. I've been reborn too. In our previous life, there was never any share transfer agreement, though 60% of the shares were always mine. I even orchestrated the car crash that killed you. You were never supposed to live this long. My brow twitched. So you're admitting you're a murderer? Should I call the police? Song Hee's face twisted with rage. Stop playing dumb. Was it you who tampered with Wu Yu's frozen sperm? I looked up. If you have proof, go to the police. Don't throw a tantrum here. That's one thing I don't have to worry about. Back then, I only transferred the money to Lin Hao. I never actually acquired the fertility clinic. As long as the fertility clinic insists that the frozen sperm sample was provided by Wu Yu himself, dead men tell no tales. There's simply no evidence. Song Hee's eyes were bloodshot. Stop pretending. I could have had Wu Yu's child. Our baby would have been fair and adorable. Definitely not that dark little lump. It should have been. No, it must have been that way. Should have been. Could it be that she died in her previous life before giving birth, never getting the chance to see that child? Wu Yu is such an idiot. Song Hee spat through gritted teeth. On his deathbed, he goes on about never forgetting me, how he always loved me. and that he'd leave everything to me. Why couldn't he just give me the shares and inheritance directly? Why force me to have a child first? A thought struck me. Is it possible Wu Yu is getting his revenge on you? Song He froze. I continued, I've heard your story. You were the one who cheated back then. Wu Yu was forced to break up with you. Perhaps he's always held a grudge against you, which is why he set you up. That frozen sperm sample was probably something he deliberately collected and then deposited in the fertility clinic under his own name. Song He's pupils contracted sharply, and his body began to tremble uncontrollably. Impossible, absolutely impossible. He sounded so sincere on his deathbed. How could he? I watched as Song He's spirit began to crumble. I immediately poured fuel on the fire. With men, you shouldn't listen to what they say, but watch what they do. You all said Wu Yu didn't love me, yet he went and left all his shares to me. The lawyers have verified it. The handwriting and fingerprints are all his, so I believe he must have loved me. Song He looked up, utterly bewildered. You're lying to me, aren't you? In my past life, there was no share transfer agreement. All the shares were mine. I frowned. I think you should see a psychiatrist. You might not be experiencing a rebirth. You could be suffering from delusions. Delusions. Song He's eyes went vacant, and she slumped to the floor with a thud. I called my assistant. Show her out. After returning from the company, Song He's mental state deteriorated further, and she gradually lost the ability to distinguish between her past and present life. She would often hold her son and giggle foolishly, telling others that he was going to inherit a vast fortune and that she was about to become a wealthy woman. After the neighbors discovered the situation, they called the police, and Song He's parents came to take them home. Jian Qi glanced at me and said, Boss Yi, Song He has lost her mind. Is there still a need to investigate her in secret? I shook my head. No, there isn't. Even if Song He talks about being reborn again, no one would believe her now. I thought the whole thing was over, but then my in-laws showed up again. 12 I had just come out of the building's garage when I saw my in-laws camped out at my front door. I frowned, picked up my phone, and was about to call security. Then my in-laws suddenly dropped to their knees. Yi Xing, I was wrong before. I shouldn't have treated you so poorly, and I certainly shouldn't have hit you. It's all my fault. Please forgive me. As she spoke, my mother-in-law raised her hand and began slapping her own face. She wasn't holding back. Soon, red handprints marked both cheeks, and the pain brought tears to her eyes. My father-in-law even slapped himself hard across the face twice. I was wrong too, he said. I knew all along that Wu Yu was the one who didn't want children, yet I still blamed you unfairly and even helped that wretched woman bully you. It was all our fault. What are you doing? I asked suspiciously, looking around. Where's the hidden camera? Are you trying to frame me for elder abuse again? My mother-in-law shook her head frantically. Absolutely not. We truly know we were wrong. You were the one who genuinely cared for Wu Yu. We came to see our grandson. My father-in-law's face was full of hope. We found out, when Wu Yu died, you were already pregnant. By our calculations, our grandson must be almost 6 months old now. My mother-in-law kowtowed with a thud. Please, have pity on us old folks. Just let us see our grandson. My father-in-law wiped his tears. The Wu family line won't die out after all. Ha ha ha. I couldn't help but laugh. You want to see your grandson? My in-laws nodded eagerly. I pointed downward with a mocking gesture. Then you'll have to meet in hell. The day Wu Yu was burned to ashes, I had that child aborted. My father-in-law's eyes widened instantly. Impossible. How dare you? How could you be so heartless? That was the Wu family's only bloodline. You vicious woman. I'll kill you. My mother-in-law sprang to her feet, ready to strike me. I sidestepped the attack. The security guard, having received the alert, arrived and immediately blocked the old woman. I frowned in disgust. Don't just let anyone in here from now on. The security guard began pulling the two foul-mouthed individuals out. Wait, I said, casting a meaningful look at the old man. How could the Wu family line possibly end? At your age, you're still in your prime. Father-in-law stopped wailing, a glint of understanding flashing in his eyes. He clearly got my point. Mother-in-law was stunned for a moment, then erupted in curses. Wu Quan, if you dare let some tramp have your child, I'll make sure we both go down together. I sneered. What's this? You were so righteous and high-minded when you wanted me to accept Song He carrying on the Wu family line. How come it's not okay when it's your turn? Don't be so selfish. Father-in-law muttered with his head down. Exactly. The mother-in-law lunged at the father-in-law, clawing at his face. The two of them instantly became a tangled, fighting mess. I gave a wry smirk. turned on my heel, and walked away. 13. It was another 6 months before I heard any news about my in-laws again. In his desperation to secure an heir for the Wu family, my father-in-law actually went out to find another woman to bear him a child. After searching far and wide, he somehow ended up at Song-hee's parents' doorstep. By that time, Song-hee's mental state was deteriorating rapidly, all while struggling to care for a mixed race child. Song-hee's parents were struggling to make ends meet while supporting their daughter and grandson. Upon hearing that having a child could earn them 2 million, they contacted the father-in-law. The father-in-law, upon seeing the deranged Song-hee, did not hesitate to force her into bed. Not long after, Song-hee successfully became pregnant. One day, while accompanying Song-hee to her prenatal checkup, the father-in-law accidentally ran into his wife, who was also at the hospital. Seeing Song-hee's swollen belly, the mother-in-law instantly pieced together the whole story. The mother-in-law started screaming in the hospital, demanding an explanation from her husband, and even tried to hit Song-hee. The father-in-law had had enough. He shoved his wife aside, announced he wanted a divorce on the spot, and escorted Song-hee away. Unwilling to accept defeat, the mother-in-law pretended to agree to the divorce and arranged a meeting with the father-in-law to talk. The moment the father-in-law returned home, the mother-in-law ignited the gas cylinder, and the two of them truly perished together. When Song-hee's parents realized they wouldn't get the 2 million, they immediately took their daughter to terminate the pregnancy. After reading the deep dives into the explosive news, I felt completely unmoved inside. Every dog has its day. I have long since become a stranger to them. Mr. Yi, here's today's schedule for your review. The assistant brought over the itinerary. I put down my phone and started a brand new day. The end. Story 2. After my husband knocked out my tooth in public, I never spoke another word that day. His female assistant mocked me for being a retard who couldn't see the road clearly, so I threw a glass of water in her face. My husband rushed over and slapped me twice. Who do you think you are, to dare cause trouble for her? Get on your knees and apologize. My face swelled up like a pig's head. I swallowed my teeth along with the blood, and passed out to the sound of everyone's mocking laughter. When I woke up, I had developed aphasia. My husband panicked. Honey, say something, yell at me, hit me, anything, just don't stay silent. I just quietly handed him the divorce papers. He tore the agreement to shreds like a madman. Impossible, you love me most, you can't live without me. Isn't this just about making me bow my head and admit I was wrong? Fine, I admit it. I admit to everything, but what he didn't know was this: those 2 slaps shattered more than just my teeth and the love I gave him for 10 years, a love I poured my very life into. 1. I was beaten at the company's annual gala in that banquet hall with hundreds of people. Everyone watched as I knelt on the floor, spitting up blood, my face swollen like a pig's head. It all started quite simply. Mr. Lu's assistant, Shin Meow Meow, mocked me right in front of everyone. Oh dear, Mrs. Lu, are your eyes not working? Can't you see such a large step? If Mr. Lu hadn't caught you, wouldn't you have fallen flat on your face? She giggled behind her hand, and a few employees eager to curry favor with her joined in the laughter. What a blind fool, can't even see where she's going, and she has the nerve to call herself Mrs. Lu. It's true, I can't see very well. I was born with amblyopia and severe myopia. In dim light, I'm practically blind, but that's no reason for them to mock me. I picked up the glass of orange juice beside me and, aiming at Shin Meow Meow's meticulously made-up face, flung it steadily at her. Ah, she shrieked, jumping to her feet. You crazy woman. The next second, Lu Ziyuan rushed over. He first steadied Shin Meow Meow, then turned and slapped me twice across the face. He put his whole body into it. I could hear the sickening crack of teeth and taste the metallic tang of blood flooding my mouth. My face burned with a searing pain, and my vision began to swim and darken. Jiang Xingyao, have you lost your mind? Apologize to Meow Meow. Get on your knees. I stared at him in a daze. The man I had loved for 10 years and been married to for 7, his eyes held nothing but disgust and fury, as if I were some kind of filth. Mr. Lu, please, let it go. Mrs. Lu might just be in a bad mood. Shin Meow Meow feigned concern as she spoke, her eyes brimming with smug satisfaction. Does being in a bad mood give her the right to hit someone? Lu Ziyuan sneered. Who does she think she is? Jiang Xingyao, I'm telling you for the last time. Get on your knees and apologize. I shook my head. Blood trickled from the corner of my mouth, dripping onto the white gown. Lu Ziyuan seemed enraged. He grabbed my shoulders, trying to force me to my knees. At that moment, everything went black, and I completely lost consciousness too. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. Mom was sitting by the bed, crying her heart out. Yao Yao, you're finally awake. I was so scared. I wanted to speak words of comfort to her, but no sound would come out. My mouth opened, but only a rush of air escaped. My mother was stunned for a moment, then hurriedly called for the doctor. After examining me, the doctor's expression turned grave. The initial diagnosis is psychogenic mutism, caused by severe psychological trauma. The exact recovery time is uncertain. It could be a few days, or it could be forever. I closed my eyes. Deep down, I knew it wasn't aphasia. I just didn't want to speak anymore. Those 2 slaps shattered far too much: my teeth, my dignity, and the last shred of affection I held for Lu Ziyuan. The door swung open, and Lu Ziyuan walked in, impeccably dressed in a suit. He was still the same dashing and handsome Mr. Lu. There were just dark circles under her eyes, as if she hadn't slept a wink. Awake, he sat down by the bed, his tone casual, as if nothing had happened. The doctor says you've lost your voice. Stop pretending. I know you're giving me the silent treatment. About last night, I acted on impulse, but you shouldn't have thrown water on Meow Meow in front of everyone. She is my assistant. After all, you really embarrassed me. I watched him in silence, not saying a word. He frowned. Jiang Xingyao, stop this. If you're angry, yell at me, hit me, do whatever you want. Just don't give me the silent treatment. I still didn't react at all. He finally began to panic. What do you want from me? I've already said it was my fault. What more do you want? I turned my head away, refusing to look at him any longer. I took the divorce papers, prepared long in advance, from the nightstand drawer and placed them before him. 3. The moment Lu Ziyuan saw the divorce papers, his entire body went rigid. Then, as if he'd just heard the most ridiculous joke, he let out a cold, mocking laugh. Divorce, Jiang Xingyao, are you out of your mind? You want a divorce just because I slapped you twice? He snatched the agreement and tore it to shreds, scattering the pieces across the floor. Impossible. You love me most. You can't live without me. You've been clinging to me since college, chased me for 3 whole years, finally married me, and now you're talking about divorce. Isn't this just about making me admit I was wrong? Fine, I admit it. I admit everything. He grabbed my hand, his grip frighteningly strong. Honey, please stop this. Okay, I promise I'll never lay a hand on you again. I'll deal with Meow Meow. I'll make sure she apologizes to you. Will that do? I pulled my hand back and took out another agreement from under the pillow. This time, I pointed to the signature line. The meaning is clear. Sign it. Lu Ziyuan's face turned ashen. Jiang Xingyao, are you serious? Don't forget what happened to your eyes. Who else do you think would want a blind woman like you if you leave me? Don't you know your place in the Jiang family? Your father favors sons over daughters. Now that he has a son, he couldn't care less about you. And your mother is weak and useless. All she does is cry. Without me, you're nothing. I watched his hysterical outburst calmly. There was a time when every word from this man would break my heart. Now, I just find it laughable. Mom pushed the door open, and her face fell at the sight of shredded paper scattered all over the floor. Lu Ziyuan, get out of here. Mom, please calm down. Xingyao and I, get out. Mom's voice trembled. Anyone who lays a hand on my daughter has no right to be here. Lu Ziyuan gave me one last deep look before turning and walking away. He threw out one final remark before leaving. Jiang Xingyao, you'll regret this. 04. After Lu Ziyuan left, my mother held me and cried for a long time. She kept saying she was sorry, that she was useless, that she couldn't protect me. I patted her back, wanting to tell her it wasn't her fault, but I couldn't find the words. Lu Ziyuan was right. I really don't have much standing in the Jiang family. My father favors sons over daughters. After my brother was born, it was as if I ceased to exist. My mother is too gentle and has no real say in the Jiang household. I've known since I was a child that no one in this family truly cares about me. That was, until I met Lu Ziyuan. It was my freshman year, and I literally bumped into him at the library. To be precise, I couldn't see where I was going and knocked over his coffee. I was frantically apologizing, but he just smiled and said, "It's fine. I wasn't really in the mood to study anyway." The sunlight streamed through the window and fell upon him. In that moment, I thought he was the most beautiful person I had ever seen. I later found out he was the big man on campus, the heartthrob of the business school, from a wealthy family, with countless admirers, and me, I was just a bookworm with thick glasses. Yet, somehow, I still fell for him. I started bringing him breakfast, saving him seats in class, and bringing him water when he played basketball. All his friends laughed at me, saying I was a toad lusting after a swan's flesh. He never accepted my feelings, but he never outright rejected me either. He just kept me hanging on like that. Never too close but never too far. For 3 whole years it wasn't until our senior year that his family's company ran into trouble and needed a large sum of money to stay afloat. He suddenly said to me, "Jiang Xingyao, let's be together." I was so happy I almost cried. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a transaction. 5. It wasn't until after we were married that I found out Lu Ziyuan only married me because the Jiang family promised him a 20 million investment. That money was my dowry, left to me by my grandfather. My father gave the money to the Lu family without a second thought, on the condition that Lu Ziyuan had to marry me on our wedding night. Lu Ziyuan was dead drunk. He grabbed my hair and snarled, "Jiang Xingyao, did you think you could buy me with money? Let me make this clear, I will never love you." That night, he was brutal. I was trembling all over in pain, yet he seemed intent on unleashing all his hatred upon me. I woke up the next day to find the sheets stained with blood. Without so much as a glance in my direction, he got dressed and left. Curled up alone in bed, I felt for the first time that perhaps I was the one who had made a mistake, but it was already too late. Married life was even harder to bear than I had imagined. Lu Ziyuan rarely came home, and when he did, he slept in the guest room. On the rare occasion he was in a good mood, he would half-heartedly share a meal with me. Most of the time, he acts as if I'm invisible. I tried to win him over, learning to cook his favorite dishes, arranging the house just the way he likes it, but none of it worked. In his eyes, I'll always be the woman who forced him into marriage with money. It wasn't until our 3rd year of marriage that I found out I was pregnant, quite unexpectedly. 6. The day I found out I was pregnant, I was so overjoyed I couldn't sleep a wink all night. I thought to myself, maybe a child could change things. When Lu Ziyuan found out, his expression was a complicated mix of emotions. He was silent for a long time before finally saying, "Let's have the baby." Those months of my pregnancy were the happiest time since I married him. He started coming home on time, accompanying me to prenatal checkups, and even asking me what I felt like eating. He was still distant, but at least he was acting like a husband. I thought everything was getting better. That was until I was 7 months pregnant. I went to his office to bring him soup, pushed open the door, and saw Shen Miao Miao sitting on his lap. They were standing close, her lipstick smudged on his shirt collar. The lunchbox slipped from my hands, spilling soup all over the floor. Lu Ziyuan frowned and pushed Shen Miao Miao away. "What are you doing here?" I was speechless. I just turned and walked away. He didn't come after me that night. I started bleeding in the bathroom. The doctor said it was due to extreme emotional distress and that I needed bed rest to prevent a miscarriage. When Lu Ziyuan arrived at the hospital, he reeked of alcohol. "How is the child?" That was the first thing he asked. "You and her." I looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. "It's nothing, just work-related." He cut me off impatiently. "Don't be so suspicious. It's not good for the child." I wanted to ask more, but looking at his cold expression, I ended up saying nothing. In the end, we lost the baby when I was 8 months along. I took a fall on the stairs at home. It wasn't an accident. It happened when Shen Miao Miao came to deliver some documents and accidentally bumped into me. I lost the baby, and I almost died on the operating table. When I woke up, Lu Ziyuan was sitting by the bed, his eyes a little red. It was the first time I had ever seen him cry for me. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice hoarse. I thought he'd finally found his conscience, but the very next day, Shen Miao Miao became his full-time assistant. The reason given was, the company needs her. 7. After losing the child, I fell into a deep depression. I couldn't sleep night after night. The moment I closed my eyes, I would see that unborn child. Lu Ziyuan hired a nanny to look after me. While he moved into an apartment near his office, he said it was for the convenience of work. I knew he just didn't want to face me. During that time, I wasted away to just over 80 pounds, a complete shell of my former self. Then one day, my mother came to see me. She held me, crying, and said, "Yao Yao, if you go, I won't go on living either." It was then that I realized I couldn't die. At the very least, I couldn't let my mother bury her own child. I started taking medication, seeing a therapist, forcing myself to climb out of the darkness. It took a full 2 years for me to barely get back to normal, but my marriage to Lu Ziyuan had long been a marriage in name only. He rarely comes home once a month, and when he does, he just grabs his things and leaves. We live under the same roof like two strangers. I thought life would just go on like this forever, that is, until the day before yesterday, when I got a call from his secretary saying I was needed at the company's annual gala. "Mr. Lu said that, as Mrs. Lu, it wouldn't look good if you didn't attend." I didn't want to go, but I agreed. Thinking about how long it had been since I'd seen him, I dressed up carefully, putting on the white gown he once said looked nice on me. And that's how the scene from the beginning came about. Day 8. On the 3rd day of my hospital stay, Lu Ziyuan Came to see me again this time. He brought a huge bouquet of roses in my favorite shade, champagne. Honey, I was wrong, please forgive me. Okay. He knelt on one knee before the hospital bed, his posture one of utter humility. I shouldn't have hit you. I'm a bastard. I deserve to die. If you're angry, hit me back. Do whatever you want to me. Just don't give me the silent treatment. Looking at that bouquet, I remembered how he looked all those years ago, the first time he ever gave me flowers. Back then, he said with a smile, Jiang Xingyao, be my girlfriend. I was so overjoyed I was at a loss for words, clutching the flowers and crying for a long time. Thinking back on it now, it's truly laughable. I picked up the paper and pen on the bedside table and wrote 2 words, divorce. Lu Ziyuan's face instantly twisted into a vicious snarl. He stood up and smashed the vase to pieces. Jiang Xingyao, don't you dare push your luck. I've already humbled myself to this extent. What more do you want from me? Divorce, in your dreams. You'll never leave me. Not in this lifetime. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Mom rushed in, seeing the shattered glass and water all over the floor. She trembled with rage. That beast, Yao Yao, we're suing him. We are getting a divorce. I nodded. Deep down, I knew Lu Ziyuan refused to divorce not because he loved me, it was because his company still needed the Jiang family's backing. Although my father favored sons over daughters, he still cared about saving face in front of others. If Lu Ziyuan dares to leave me, my father will definitely pull his funding. That is Lu Ziyuan's greatest weakness, but this time, I won't be so soft-hearted. Those 2 slaps finally woke me up. I, Jiang Xingyao, am no one's appendage. Even if the path ahead is unclear, even if I hold no status in the Jiang family, even if the whole world looks down on me, I will still stand tall and live with dignity and integrity. 9. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, Lu Ziyuan never showed up. The ones who came to pick me up were my mother and a lawyer. My mother had found the lawyer, who was said to be very experienced in divorce litigation. Ms. Jiang, I've fully reviewed your case. All the evidence of domestic violence has been gathered. The hospital's medical report, the surveillance footage, and witness testimonies are all in order. Getting the divorce shouldn't be a problem. It's the division of assets that might get a bit messy. I wrote on the paper, I don't want any of it. I just want the divorce. The lawyer was taken aback. Are you sure? By law, you're entitled to at least half of the marital assets. I shook my head. Money means nothing to me. I just want to cut Lu Ziyuan out of my life completely and start fresh. When I got home, I started packing my things. After 7 years of marriage, I didn't actually have much to call my own. A few pieces of clothing, some jewelry, and a small case filled with medicine. Just as I was packing, the door suddenly swung open. Lu Ziyuan stood in the doorway, holding a document in his hand. This is Shen Miaomiao's termination notice. I've already let her go. He placed the documents on the table. Is this okay, honey? I know you're bothered by her. There won't be any other women around me from now on. I didn't even glance at the documents and kept packing my things. He suddenly rushed over and pulled me into a tight embrace. Xingyao, please don't go. I'm begging you. I know I'm a bastard, I'm a monster, but you can't leave me. Do you remember? You promised you'd love me forever. I pushed him away forcefully and wrote on a piece of paper that Jiang Xingyao is already dead. His eyes slowly welled up as he stared at the line of text. No, you're lying. You still love me. You're just angry. Have you forgotten? You used to make me breakfast every morning and bring me supper when I worked late. You remembered all my likes and dislikes, and you'd always plan a surprise for my birthday. What is this, if not love? I let out a cold laugh and wrote again. That was then. Now, it just makes me sick. 10. Lu Ziyuan was completely panicked. From that day on, he launched into a desperate attempt to win her back. He sent flowers and gifts every day, even going to the Jiang family home to beg her mother to put in a good word for him. Unfortunately, her mother was unusually firm this time. Lu Ziyuan, how dare you show your face here after beating my daughter like this? Get out. If you come back, I'm calling the police. He went to see my father again, promising the Jiang family even greater benefits. As expected, my father was swayed. He called to persuade me. Yao Yao, Ziyuan knows he was wrong. Please forgive him. Even the fiercest fights between husband and wife are forgotten by morning. What deep-seated hatred could there really be? I hung up the phone without another word. My father never truly cared for me, not once in my entire life. In his eyes, I was just a bargaining chip, a tool to be traded for his own gain. In that case, why should I care what he thinks? Things are moving quickly with the lawyer. The court has already accepted the divorce petition. The court date is set for 1 month from now. After receiving the summons, Lu Ziyuan rushed straight to his mother's house. Jiang Xingyao, Do you really have to be this ruthless? After 7 years of marriage, do you feel no trace of affection at all? I took out my phone, opened the photo album, and flipped through the pictures one by one for him to see. Those were the photos I had taken over the years, every single one. I was all alone on my birthday. I made a wish over a cake, by myself on our anniversary. I waited alone at the restaurant until closing. In the hospital, I lay alone in bed, hooked up to N4. I was even alone when I signed the surgical consent form on the day of the miscarriage. 7 years, over 2,000 days and nights. The total time he spent by my side doesn't even add up to 100 days, and this is what he calls the bond of marriage. Lu Ziyuan stared at the photos, his face growing paler by the second. I didn't know. I thought you had a nanny to look after you, that your mother was with you. I shook my head with a cold laugh. It's not that he doesn't know, he just doesn't care. 11. Just 1 week before the divorce trial was set to begin, the arrival of one person completely changed the situation. That person was Lu Ziyuan's mother, Lin Sufan. She rarely makes public appearances. I've only seen her 3 times in all these years, at a wedding, a full-month celebration, and now this time. Xing Yao, could I speak with you alone? Lin Sufan looked much more haggard, with several new wrinkles on her once well-maintained face. Mom looked a bit worried, but I nodded anyway. We went to a nearby cafe. Lin Sufan was silent for a long time before she finally spoke. Xing Yao, I know Ziyuan has wronged you. As his mother, I owe you an apology, but I'm not here today to ask you to forgive him. I'm here to tell you something you should know. She took an old envelope from her bag and slid it across the table toward me. This is the medical record from Ziyuan's car accident 10 years ago. I was stunned. 10 years ago. We had only just met back then. Opening the medical file, I was confronted with a shocking diagnosis: severe traumatic brain injury, a ruptured cornea. He nearly lost his sight. That car accident was devastating. Ziyuan was in the ICU for 2 whole weeks, the doctors said. His corneas were severely damaged and needed a transplant, but a suitable donor was nowhere to be found, until someone anonymously donated corneas. Lin Sufan looked at me and said, Xing Yao, that person was you, wasn't it? My hands began to tremble. Yes, it was me, but I didn't donate the deceased's corneas. I donated my own. 12. It was about 10 years ago, not long after I first met Lu Ziyuan. That evening, he didn't show up for night study. I got a little worried, so I went to his dorm. His roommate said he'd gone out and hadn't come back. I searched the entire school for him, and finally found him drunk in the bar behind the school's back gate. He had drunk so much he could barely stand. I struggled to support him as we walked back. Just after we crossed the street, an out-of-control truck came barreling towards us. Instinctively, I shoved him out of the way, but I was the one who got hit and sent flying. I woke up in the hospital. The doctor said I was lucky, just a concussion and some external injuries, but Lu Ziyuan wasn't so fortunate to save me. He rushed back and was hit head-on by the truck. Traumatic brain injury, corneal rupture, risk of blindness at any moment. The doctor said a corneal transplant is needed, but the domestic supply is critically low. The waiting list is very long. I didn't hesitate. I signed the donor consent form. My eyesight was already poor. Losing the cornea from one eye would just make things a bit blurrier, but if it could restore his sight, then it was worth it. The surgery was a success. Lu Ziyuan's eyesight was saved, but from that day on, my own vision began to deteriorate day by day. I never told a soul about it, not even Lu Ziyuan. I just asked the doctor to say it was an anonymous donor. I thought that secret would stay buried in my heart forever. I never expected Lin Sufan to find out. I've been looking for that donor, wanting to thank them. Just the other day, I finally tracked down the attending physician from back then. He's retired now, so he spoke without holding anything back. He told me the girl's surname was Jiang. She was Ziyuan's classmate. Lin Sufan's tears began to fall. Xing Yao, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My son is a monster. How could he do this to you? 13. When I left the cafe, Lin Sufan was still crying. She said she was going to tell Lu Ziyuan the truth, to make him realize what a bastard he'd been. I shook my head. There's no point if his guilt and remorse depend on knowing the truth to even exist. I don't want that kind of affection. When I got home, I continued preparing for the divorce, but that very night, Lu Ziyuan barged in like a madman. He knelt before me, clutching my legs and weeping as if his heart were breaking. I'm sorry, Xing Yao. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I truly didn't know. It was your cornea. You saved me, and you gave up so much for me. How could I have done this to you? I deserve to die. I really do. He was crying so hard he could barely catch his breath. It was the first time I had ever seen him Lose his composure like that. Lose a Yuan, who had once been so aloof and untouchable, now looked like a lost child. But it was too late. I pushed him away and wrote on the paper, "It's none of your business." He stared blankly at those 4 words. "What do you mean?" I wrote again. "The person I saved was a stranger, not you." The Lu Ziyuan I was willing to give everything for died a long time ago. It died in his repeated indifference. It died in his ambiguous relationship with Shin Miao Miao. It died with the child that was lost. It died with those 2 resounding slaps. The person kneeling before me now was nothing but a stranger. 14. The divorce hearing commenced as scheduled. Lu Ziyuan was absent, with his lawyer acting as his sole representative. The judge asked if I was determined to proceed with the divorce, and I nodded without hesitation. An hour later, the verdict was announced. The divorce was granted. Regarding the assets, even though I said I didn't want anything, the judge still awarded a portion to me. I get the house, and we split the savings 50-50. Lu Ziyuan didn't raise any objections. The sun was shining brightly as I walked out of the courthouse. I took a deep breath and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. My mother stayed by my side and said, "Yao Yao, from now on, it's just you and me. We'll make a good life together." I nodded, and for the first time, a smile appeared on my face. Even though I still couldn't speak, I knew deep down that everything was going to be alright. That evening, while I was tidying up my things, I came across a box. It holds all the little moments from these years: movie tickets, concert stubs, and a few photographs. Most of them are candid shots I took of Lu Ziyuan, his athletic grace on the basketball court, his focused intensity at work, and his peaceful serenity in sleep. Each one was proof of my love for him. I took the box out to the yard and set it on fire. Watching those memories turn to ash in the flames, I finally felt at peace. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but I knew who it was when I answered. Lu Ziyuan's hoarse voice came through the line. "Xing Yao, I'm downstairs at your place. I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. Give me 5 last minutes." 15. When I went downstairs, I saw a Lu Ziyuan I barely recognized. He had lost a lot of weight, was unshaven, and his eyes were bloodshot. The once confident and dynamic CEO Lu now looked like a vagrant. "Xing Yao." He tried to step closer, but I took a step back. He gave a bitter smile and stayed where he was. "I know you won't forgive me, and I don't deserve to ask for your forgiveness. I just want to tell you a few things. I've made sure Shin Miao Miao can't survive in this city anymore. I've uncovered everything about how she plotted to cause your miscarriage, and I've looked into all you've sacrificed over the years." His voice choked with emotion. "The company wouldn't be where it is today without you. All those contracts, all those connections, you were the one pulling the strings for me. And yet he suddenly dropped to his knees. "Xing Yao, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. You can punish me however you want. Hit me, curse at me, or even let me die. I only beg you, give me one more chance. Just one chance is all I need. Let me make it up to you." I looked at him kneeling on the ground, my heart utterly calm. Once a single glance from him could make my heart flutter. Now, even as he kneels and begs me, I feel nothing. I took out my phone and typed a line. "Lu Ziyuan, mark my words, not every I'm sorry is met with an it's okay. Not every mistake gets a second chance." I turned and went upstairs, never looking back. From behind me came the sound of his heart-wrenching sobs. Xing Yao, I know now. I know everything. Your eyes, it's because of me. All your suffering is because of me. Please, let me atone, let me make it right." I shut the door, cutting off the sound of his voice. 16. 3 months after the divorce, my voice came back to me. The first words I spoke were to my reflection in the mirror. "Jiang Xing Yao, it's time for a fresh start. I sold that house and moved to another city, a city without Lu Ziyuan, without the past. I opened a flower shop, spending my days surrounded by blossoms. Though my vision remains blurry, my mind is clear. Every now and then, Mom would come to see me, bringing some hometown treats. She said Dad was furious about my divorce and cut off all cooperation with the Lu family. The Lu family's company is struggling and on the verge of collapse. I felt nothing. All of that is behind me now, until one day, Lian showed up at the flower shop. He's my primary physician, the one who's been handling my therapy. "I heard you opened a flower shop. I wanted to come see it for myself." His smile was as warm as the spring sunshine. We talked for a long time. From flower arranging to life itself. He said, "You know, on the day your aphasia was cured, I was even happier than you were. Because I had been waiting so long to hear you speak. I've waited 3 months, and finally, the moment is here." I was taken aback for a moment, not understanding what he meant. He suddenly grew a bit nervous. "Xing Yao, may I pursue you? I know you just got divorced, so you might not be ready, but I want you to know, I'll wait. I'll wait for the day you're ready to believe in love again. Looking into his sincere eyes, I felt for the first time that maybe love was still something worth hoping for. Dr. Lou, the flower shop needs a florist, would you be interested? His eyes lit up. What's the salary, room and board included? Deal. We all laughed. The sunlight streamed through the window, bathing the room full of flowers in a warm glow. Later, someone asked me, did I ever have any regrets? Regretting ever loving Lu Ziyuan, regretting giving so much for him? I said, no regrets. It was those experiences that made me who I am today. A Jiang Xingyao who can walk forward with her head held high, even when the path ahead is unclear. As for Lu Ziyuan, I heard he lost his mind every day. He stands at the door of what was once our home, talking to the empty air, muttering things like, I made you breakfast, dear, or, come home early today, dear, and, I'm so sorry, dear. But that place had been empty for a long time, just like our love. It had died long ago. It died the night he knocked my teeth out with his own hands. Some things, once broken, can never be put back together, like teeth, like the heart, like love, and I choose to let myself go, to live again. This time, I live only for myself. The end. That's all for the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more thrilling. I was in the middle of giving a presentation at the National Academy of Sciences when my mom's call came through. On the other end, she was sobbing uncontrollably. Sweetheart, your brother's engagement has been called off. I rushed over to the other family's house immediately, only to find my brother cornered in the middle of the living room, his face deathly pale. A girl in haute couture was pointing at his nose, her gaze full of contempt. You, me, I'm the heir to the Shin Group. My father just invested $1 billion in your institute. Are you even worthy of me? Even his future mother-in-law chimed in. Xiao Feng, our Yining deserves better. Stop deluding yourself. It's for the best, for everyone. I was about to step forward, but the mention of Shin Group stopped me in my tracks. Shin Group. Since when did my bargain bin husband from a marriage of convenience have a daughter, on top of our rebellious son? I immediately called my husband, my voice dripping with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Darling, when did you sneak around and father a love child behind my back, and now you have the nerve to call off my brother's engagement? 1. Don't be ridiculous. On the other end of the line, my husband in name only, Xin Zhaoting, spoke in a voice devoid of any discernible emotion. Feng. Do I have a daughter or not? You should know the answer to that. Hearing his tone of utter certainty, half of my anger subsided, but my suspicions grew even deeper. Xin Zhaoting and I had a typical marriage of convenience. Our prenuptial agreement was crystal clear. We wouldn't interfere in each other's private lives and would only play the part of a loving couple when necessary. Our only point of connection was our son, who had been sent abroad for school and was right in the thick of his rebellious phase. All these years, we've maintained a polite but distant relationship, which, in its own way, has been harmonious. Given how shrewd he is, he wouldn't be foolish enough to make a mistake like that. It better be. I hung up the phone and let my gaze drift to the center of the living room. The girl who called herself the Shin family heiress was named Shanine. Her makeup was flawless and her outfit screamed luxury, but the sheer pettiness in her eyes was impossible to hide. My brother, Feng Yu, stood facing her. He wore faded casual clothes, his fists were clenched, his lips pressed into a tight line, and he didn't utter a single word. He was a typical researcher, not a man of many words, and certainly not one for arguments. At that moment, he was like a cornered animal, with nothing but silent defiance left. What's this? Another one? Xin Yin's gaze fell on me, looking me up and down with contempt. First you call for your mom, now you call for your sister. Is your family trying to rescue Grandpa like the Calabash brothers, sending them in one by one to get captured? The woman bedecked in jewels beside her, her mother Lin Hui, immediately chimed in. Yining, don't stoop to their level, it's beneath you. She turned to me, putting on the airs of the lady of the house, her tone dripping with condescension. Young lady, I'm aware of your family's circumstances. It's no small feat for an ordinary working-class family to raise a promising researcher like Feng Yu. But you must know your place. What is the standing of our Shin family? Our Yining was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. Your Feng family is simply out of your league. After she finished speaking, she let out a thoroughly insincere sigh. This 10 billion yuan investment is a token of the Shin family's support for the nation's scientific research, granted purely out of consideration for Yining. Don't be ungrateful. If you upset our family, we can withdraw the funding at any moment. Watching the mother and daughter perform their little duet, I was so furious I almost laughed. Using my money to threaten my brother. The world is so darkly ironic it's not even funny. It's the epitome of twisted humor. My mother was so furious she couldn't speak. Just holding Fan Yu's hand as tears streamed down her face, I walked over and shielded my mother and younger brother behind me. Mrs. Shen, I presume. I looked at Lin Hui and spoke calmly. Shen Zhaoting of the Shen Group is quite a public figure. How is it I've never heard him mention that the Shen family had two other members like yourself and Miss Shenine? As soon as my words were out, the expressions on Lin Hui and Shen Yin's faces changed. They clearly hadn't expected me to question their identities so directly and with such composure. In their little script, a poor relation like me should be falling over myself with gratitude at the mention of the Shen family and $1 billion investment, then slink away with my tail between my legs. Lin Hui was taken aback for a second, then flushed with anger and humiliation. Who the hell do you think you are? Why should our family's affairs be reported to an outsider like you, too? Shenine shrieked even louder. My father is Shen Zhaoting, the chairman of the Shen Group. I'm his only daughter, who in the capital doesn't know that. How dare a penniless nobody like you, who crawled out of some backwater, question who I am? You must be desperate for money. She crossed her arms and lifted her chin haughtily. I see what this is. You're just trying to shake me down for money. Well, I'm telling you right now, not a chance. This engagement is off. Our Enin is the heiress of the Shen Group, its future successor. A penniless nobody like Fan Yu isn't even fit to polish my shoes. After she finished speaking, she saw Fan Yu still staring at her dumbfounded, the malice in her eyes practically overflowing. She suddenly reached out, grabbing Fan Yu's hand and roughly trying to yank the ring off his finger. It was the engagement ring I designed myself. The style was simple, but the inner band was engraved with their initials. It was made from a special memory metal that would shimmer with different hues in response to body temperature. It was the one and only blessing from me, his inadequate older sister, to my younger brother. Give it back, Fan Yu finally snapped, shouting at her for the first time as he reached out to snatch it back. Give it to you, you think you deserve it. Shenine let out a scornful laugh, deftly evading his grasp, pinching the ring between her fingers as if it were something filthy. She walked over to the floor-to-ceiling aquarium in the living room. You like it that much? Then you can go keep it company. With a flick of her hand, the ring traced a faint arc through the air before landing with a plop into the aquarium housing the prized arowana. Shenine. My brother's eyes instantly turned red, like an enraged lion. He charged at her, ready to fight to the death. Fan Yu, my mother cried out in alarm, clutching him tightly as I stared at the faint glimmer at the bottom of the fish tank. My fury was completely ignited. Enough, I spoke coldly. My voice wasn't loud, but it instantly silenced the chaotic living room. Everyone looked at me. I walked up to the still smug Shenine, my gaze icy. Apologize? What? Shenine thought she must have misheard. You want me to apologize? Are you out of your mind? Lin Hui, standing beside her, snapped to attention and immediately stepped in front of her daughter. How dare you demand an apology from my daughter? You're the one who's lost your mind. Security, where is security? Get these troublemakers out of here. A man who appeared to be the butler immediately stepped forward, making a firm this way gesture towards us. Mr. and Mrs. Fong, and you, Miss, you are to leave immediately, or we will call the police. As I looked at the sea of contemptible faces in the room, the last shred of trust one had for Shen Zhaoting was crumbling away. If he really had nothing to do with these people, where did they get the nerve to act so brazenly in his own house? 3. Call the police. I laughed. Fine, I'd love to see who the police will arrest when they get here, us, or you fraud squatting in our home. My calm demeanor made Lin Hui and Shenine uneasy once more. What are you implying? Lin Hui's bluster was a thin veil for her fear. How utterly dull. I surveyed the opulently decorated living room, letting my gaze linger on a few inconspicuous corners. Surely you're aware, Mrs. Shen, that Mr. Shen has his particularities. This pot of tulips, flown in from Holland, requires its water to be changed precisely at 9 every morning, and it must be pure alpine spring water. Furthermore, that reproduction of travelers among mountains and streams in his study, a piece he spent a fortune to acquire and holds very dear, must be accompanied by a climate control unit. The temperature must not exceed 22 degrees Celsius, and the humidity must stay below 55%. With every word I spoke, Lin Hui's face grew paler. These were Shen Zhaoting's almost pathological personal habits, known only to his closest confidants and utterly impossible for outsiders to be aware of. How could you possibly know these things? Lin Hui's voice was trembling. Shenine also sensed that something was amiss. The arrogance on her face faded, replaced by shock and suspicion. I didn't answer her. Instead, I turned my gaze to the butler, who still seemed intent on stepping forward to shoo me away. "And you're new here, aren't you?" I let out a cold sneer. "Can't even recognize the master of the house. When did the Shin family standards fall so low?" The butler, unnerved by my stare, took a step back and dared not approach any further. An eerie silence descended upon the drawing room. Shanine finally lost her composure. She pulled out her phone, her fingers flying across the keypad as if clutching her last lifeline. As soon as the call connected, she burst into tears and started wailing, "Dad, you have to come now. There are people in our house causing trouble. They're bullying me and Mom. If you don't get here soon, they're going to throw us out." She sobbed out her accusations. After hanging up, she seemed to regain her nerve, planting her hands on her hips and lifting her chin defiantly. "Just you wait. My dad will be here any minute. Let's see how tough you act then." I didn't say a word, just watched her performance in silence. Inside, I was sneering. "Shin Jiaoting, I'm curious to see how you plan to get yourself out of this mess today." For less than 5 minutes had passed. The study door opened. Shin Jiaoting emerged from within. He was dressed in well-tailored loungewear. His eyes behind gold-rimmed glasses were deep and piercing. I saw him emerge from the study, not from the front door. He had been here all along. He was right there in the study, listening to everything happening outside, listening to his wife and daughter humiliate my family, and yet he did nothing. The moment he appeared, Lin Hui and Shanine rushed over to him as if they'd found their pillar of support. "Darling, you're finally here. Look at them, they're pushing us around. Dad, it's this woman, she's spouting nonsense and even cursing us." Shin Jiaoting's gaze passed over them and settled on me. His gaze was calm, detached, even carrying a hint of scrutiny. Our eyes met, and the very air seemed to freeze. After a long moment, he finally spoke, his voice betraying neither joy nor anger. "Dr. Feng, what are you doing here?" That single Dr. Feng instantly created a chasm between us. My mother was stunned. My brother was also stunned. They had both met Shin Jiaoting and knew he was my legal husband, but now, he was addressing me with the tone one uses for a subordinate or a stranger. As I looked at him, the last shred of hope in my heart was utterly extinguished. He wasn't deceived. He was the mastermind behind it all. "Shin Jiaoting," I enunciated his name, slow and deliberate. "Are you blind? Who do you think I am? Can't you see? How dare you?" Before he could even speak, Lin Hui jumped in first. "How dare you call my husband by his first name? Who do you think you are?" Shin Jiaoting raised a hand to stop her. "Dr. Feng, mind your language. While Shin Group has a deep partnership with your institute, and I respect you as an accomplished scientist, that does not grant you the right to come into my home and criticize my family." He emphasized the word family with particular force. It felt like a deliberate reminder of who the real outsider was. Watching him shield Lin Hui, I was overcome with a profound sense of irony. After more than a decade of marriage, he was now so desperate to distance himself from me, all for some woman who appeared out of nowhere. "Your family," I laughed. A laugh so hard my eyes began to water. "Shin Jiaoting, say that again. Who exactly is your family?" My question caused an almost imperceptible twitch in the muscles of his face. He avoided my gaze, turning instead to my brother Fan Yu, his tone laced with a condescending pressure. "Fan Yu, I don't care what misunderstanding exists between you and my daughter, Ineen, but today, you were in the wrong to bring your family here and cause a scene. Out of respect for your sister, apologize now to my wife and daughter. Take your people, and leave. I will consider this matter closed." His words were delivered with an air of magnanimity and forbearance. He acted as if he were the victim, and we were the unreasonable aggressors. My brother Fan Yu, usually so introverted and even timid, was now staring him down, his eyes blazing with fury. "I did nothing wrong." With his neck stiff and defiant, he said, word by deliberate word, "They're the ones who should apologize." "Fine, just perfect." Shin Jiaoting, having been defied, finally lost his composure, a flicker of anger surfacing on his face. "Since you refuse the toast and choose the penalty drink, don't blame me for forgetting our past ties." He leaned close to my ear and spoke in a voice meant for only the two of us. "Feng Ci, don't push me. You know perfectly well that without my funding, the Institute's project is nothing but scrap paper. Your brother's future is entirely in your hands. It would be best for everyone if you just swallowed your pride now." His voice was soft, yet it pierced my heart like a knife. Using my brother's future to force me into submission. "Shin Jiaoting," I looked up, meeting his icy gaze. "Aren't you afraid you'll lose control?" "Lose control?" he scoffed. as if he'd just heard the most ridiculous joke. Feng Ci, have you lost your mind in that lab of yours? Do you really think I can't manage without you? He wrinkled his nose in disgust, taking a step back to put distance between us. I'm giving you one last chance, apologize, and then get out. He turned his back on me, refusing to look my way as if the very sight of me sickened him. He thought he had it in the bag. He thought I would cave in for my brother's sake, but he forgot one thing. I, Feng Ci, have never been an easy mark. My heart grew cold, inch by inch. Get out. I repeated the word, then laughed. Shen Jiaoting, this house, as clearly stated in the prenuptial agreement, is my personal property. The one who needs to get out is you, and these two things you brought with you that crawled out of nowhere. My voice wasn't loud, but every word was crystal clear. Everyone in the living room froze. Shen Jiaoting whirled around, the composure and pretense on his face finally shattering to reveal a look of utter disbelief. What nonsense are you talking? Whether it's nonsense or not, you know the truth in your heart. I crossed my arms and looked at him with calm composure. The prenuptial agreement was made in triplicate, one for you, one for me, and one with the lawyer. It's written there in black and white that our finances are separate after marriage, all patents under my name, investment returns, and this property are my personal assets and have nothing to do with you. Shen Jiaoting, what gives you the right to tell me to get out? 6. Shen Jiaoting's face cycled through a spectacular palette of colors, shifting from pale to livid, and finally settling into a thunderous black. He must have genuinely forgotten. I had forgotten the look of sheer shock on his lawyer's face 5 years ago. When he saw the list of assets I had drawn up, I had also forgotten how eagerly he signed that agreement back then, all to expedite the marriage alliance and secure my family's connections in the new energy sector. Feng Ci, he ground out my name through clenched teeth. Don't you try to muddy the waters. So what if the house is yours? The 1 billion investment in the research institute came from my Shin group. I can cut it off right now. This was his final card to play. The weapon he believed gave him the most leverage over me. Oh, I raised an eyebrow, took out my phone from my bag, opened a recording, and pressed play. A respectful voice came through the phone. Dr. Feng, the matter you instructed has been taken care of. The Morningstar One Trust Fund, which you personally capitalized, has completed a 1 billion yuan investment into the National Academy of Sciences Materials Research Institute. All funds have been transferred. The agreement was signed by your designated Shin group, but the ultimate authority to interpret and utilize the funds belongs to you personally. The recording wasn't long, but every word felt like a slap across Shen Jiaoting's face. The color drained completely from his face in an instant. No way, this can't be happening, he muttered to himself, his eyes filled with panic. Lin Hui and her daughter Shanine were stunned. They looked at me, then at the utterly defeated Shen Jiaoting, clearly still trying to piece together what was going on. Now then, I said, stopping the recording and sweeping a cold gaze over the three of them, do you still want an apology? So, should my brother apologize to your daughter now? Shanine opened her mouth to say more, but Lin Hui grabbed her arm tightly, holding her back. This woman was clearly much more sensible than her foolish daughter. I ignored them and walked over to the fish tank. The ring still lay quietly on the white sand at the bottom of the vat, reflecting a faint glimmer of light. I rolled up my sleeves and reached in to grab it. Sis, Feng Yu rushed over and grabbed my arm. No, don't. It's dirty. His eyes red, he took off his jacket, plunged his entire arm into the icy fish tank, and carefully fished out the ring. He meticulously wiped it clean with his clothes, then held it out to me again. I'm sorry, sis. His voice was thick with a nasal tone. I took the ring, placed it in his palm, and clasped his hand tightly. It's not your fault. I patted the back of his hand. Let's go home. I grabbed Feng Yu's hand, steadied my dazed mother, and turned to leave without a second thought. From start to finish, I didn't spare Shen Jiaoting another glance. As we reached the doorway, his furious roar echoed from behind us. Feng Ci, you stop right there. This isn't over between us. I never broke my stride. Shen Jiaoting, the game has only just begun. 7. When I got home, my mother still looked utterly shaken. She took my hand, her lips trembling. Xiao Ci, what on earth is going on? Shen Jiaoting, how could he? Mom, don't worry, I'll handle this. I patted her back reassuringly. Feng Yu sat in the corner of the sofa, head bowed and silent as a statue. I walked over and sat down beside him, still upset. He shook his head, then nodded, his voice barely a whisper. Sis, am I just worthless? She's right, I'm just a broke loser, not good enough for her. Feng Yu, I cut him off. Take a good look, see clearly who it is that's humiliating you and looking down on you today. It's that girl Shanine, that woman Lin Hui, and most of all, Shin Zhaoting, who allowed all of this to happen. Their arrogance and prejudice are not your fault. As for being worthy or not, I said, looking him straight in the eye, enunciating each word, it's Shanine who isn't worthy of my brother, Feng Ci. My brother is the youngest project leader at a national key laboratory, a pillar of the future in materials science. His worth cannot be measured in money. A glimmer of light finally returned to Feng Yu's eyes. I breathed a sigh of relief. Most researchers have a certain pride. What they fear most isn't poverty, but having their value denied. As long as that fighting spirit remains, he won't be broken. After settling my family, I returned to my room and called my personal lawyer, Zhang Han. Zhang, I need you to look into two people for me. I gave him the names Lin Hui and Shanine. Also, make the necessary preparations. Initiate the special clause in the prenuptial agreement. On the other end of the line, Zhang Han was taken aback. Dr. Feng, are you certain? Activating the special clause means your marriage with Mr. Shin will enter an irreversible dissolution phase, and it will directly impact Shin Group's stock price and operations. I'm certain. There wasn't a trace of hesitation in my voice. He struck first. Don't blame me for fighting back. Shin Zhaoting thought he had me by the throat, using my brother as leverage. He thought he had me completely under his thumb. He was wrong. He crossed my one and only line. Not only will I make him give back everything he took, I'll make him pay dearly for what he did today. The next day, I went to work at the research institute as usual. I had just arrived at the office when my assistant, Xiao Chen, rushed up to me with a look of urgent concern. Dr. Feng, something's wrong. You need to see this, right away. She handed me a document. It was a top priority, highest level directive from the institute. The title reads, Urgent Notice regarding the suspension of all activities for the Morning Star Eye project and its associated research teams. It was issued by the director of the institute. The document was dated and signed at 8 o'clock this morning. Xiao Chen was on the verge of tears with anxiety. Feng Bo, what on earth is going on? Didn't Daybreak just secure funding? How could it be shut down just like that? Professor Feng Yu's entire research group is in an uproar. My gaze turned cold as I looked at the notice. Shin Zhaoting moved faster than I had anticipated. He's making an example of them. He was fully aware that the Morning Star project was my top priority, and he knew that Feng Yu's research team was its very core. Shutting down the project would not only cut off Feng Yu's academic career at the root, but also be a direct and humiliating slap in my face. I took out my phone. Just as a text message popped up, it was from Shin Zhaoting. Feng Ci, scared now, are you? I'll give you one last chance. Bring the divorce papers to Junhui Mansion at 7 p.m. tonight. If you don't, the next step will be getting your brother expelled from the Research Institute. Attached below the message was a photograph. It was a picture of Lin Hui and Shanine, arms linked intimately, beaming with smug satisfaction, with the Shin family ancestral home in the background. He was sending me a message. Tell me, who is the true mistress of the Shin family? Feng Bo, what do we do now? Xiao Chen's voice trembled with tears. I put away my phone, looked up at her, my expression calm. Don't panic. Go and notify all project team members that today's regular meeting will proceed as scheduled. Also, please help me schedule a meeting with the director. Tell him I have something important to discuss. Xiao Chen was stunned. We're still having the meeting. We are. I stood up and walked over to the window. Shin Zhaoting, do you really think this will make me yield? You're underestimating me and you're overestimating yourself. The sea is always calmest before the storm, and I am the deep sea, brewing that very storm. 9. The director's office. Director Li, well over 60, looked at me with an expression full of difficulty and apology. Xiao Ci, I'm the one who's let you down in this matter. He sighed and pointed to the official document with the red letterhead on the desk. The pressure from above is just too much for me to handle. The Shin Group sent a formal letter directly, stating they need to reassess their investment and demanding we immediately suspend the project to cooperate with their investigation. You know, the Shin Group is the Institute's biggest sponsor. We simply can't afford to cross them. I nodded to show I understood. Director Li, I'm not here today to put you in a difficult position. I took a document from my bag and slid it across the table towards him. This is what I'd like you to see. Director Li picked up the document with a puzzled look, put on his reading glasses, and with just one glance, his hand gave a sudden jerk. This is. He looked up at me, utterly shocked, his jaw hanging open. The deed of ownership for the Morning Star 1 Trust Fund. The holder, Feng Ci, Yes, I met his gaze calmly. So, the Shin Group's so-called re-evaluation is nothing but a joke. They have absolutely no authority to assess my money. Those 1 billion yuan are proceeds from my private trust fund, converted from my equity stake based on my patented technology. Initially, to avoid unnecessary complications and to give my husband, Shin Jiaoting, some face, I chose to invest through the Shin Group's channels. The contract states it clearly. The Shin Group merely acts as a custodian and executor, with no decision-making power whatsoever. Director Lee looked at the document in his hand, then at me, completely stunned. He probably never imagined that this young scholar, whom he had watched grow up and who was so dedicated to his research, harbored such astonishing capabilities. Then, why didn't you say so earlier? His face flushed with excitement. If you had shown me this earlier, I would never have signed that suspension notice. I needed the right moment. I smiled, a moment to force certain people to fully reveal their true, ugly nature. Now, the moment has come. I stood up. Director Lee, I need to ask you for a favor. Go ahead. Director Lee thumped the table, his voice booming with authority. I demand you immediately rescind the suspension notice. Furthermore, in the name of the Institute, issue a formal letter of inquiry to the Shin Group, demanding to know on what grounds they are interfering with the internal project operations of our research facility. Also, I paused, a cold glint flashing in my eyes. Instruct the legal department to prepare. I intend to sue the legal representative of the Shin Group, Shin Jiaoting, on charges of malicious disruption of scientific research and defamation of a scientist's reputation. Director Lee drew a sharp, shocked breath. This was no longer a simple marital spat. They're really out to destroy Shin Jiaoting. Xiao Ci, are you sure about this? Couldn't be more sure. I stepped out of the director's office into the bright sunshine. Shin Jiaoting, your days of ease are over. 7 o'clock in the evening, at the Junue mansion. When I pushed open the private room door, Shin Jiaoting was already waiting there. He was alone. He hadn't brought that mother and daughter pair with him. The table was set with exquisite dishes and a bottle of well-aged red wine. The candlelight flickered, creating a rather nice atmosphere. You're here. When he saw me, a confident, triumphant smile spread across his face. As if he had been the victor in our earlier confrontation, he personally stood up and pulled out the chair for me. Have a seat, Feng Ci. We were husband and wife once. Let's part on good terms. He sat back down opposite me and slid a document across the table. It was a divorce agreement. I glanced at it. I was to leave with nothing. And on top of that, sign a permanent non-disclosure agreement, swearing never to reveal anything about him or the Shin family to the outside world. What a clever little scheme. Sign it, he said, raising his glass in a toast towards me. The Institute's project will resume tomorrow, and your brother will be perfectly safe. This is your only choice. His tone was dripping with condescension. I didn't look at the agreement. Instead, I raised my head to meet his gaze. Shin Jiaoting, aren't you curious why I'm here? He was taken aback for a moment. You came here for your brother, didn't you? No, I shook my head and said, enunciating each word clearly. I came to inform you. Inform me of what? He frowned, a vague sense of foreboding creeping in. I took out my phone, pressed the answer button, and put it on speaker. On the other end of the line was the calm, steady voice of attorney Zhang Han. Dr. Feng, everything is ready, pursuant to Clause 3, Article 11 of the prenuptial agreement. In the event of a party's material breach of trust causing significant reputational and financial damage to the other party, the aggrieved party is entitled to invoke the punitive liquidation clause. We currently possess conclusive evidence that Mr. Shin Jiaoting falsified his identity as an investor, maliciously interfered with the research project, and conspired with external parties to commit marriage fraud. I hereby formally notify Mr. Shin Jiaoting that all of your personal assets, including your 51% equity stake in the Shin Group, are to be frozen immediately and placed into asset liquidation proceedings. In accordance with the agreement, your final entitlement will be 1% of the total assets. Zhang Han's voice echoed in the quiet private room, each word landing like a sledgehammer, pounding relentlessly on Shin Jiaoting's heart. The smile on his face froze instantly, then shattered into pieces. What nonsense are you talking about? He shot to his feet, pointing a trembling finger at my phone, his voice shaking. What penalty clause? I had no idea. Of course you didn't. I picked up the teacup in front of me and gently blew on it, because when you signed the agreement, you were too busy eyeing my assets to actually read the fine print. Shin Jiaoting, you're far too arrogant. You think you control everything, but you don't even know who you're up against. my phone vibrated with a message from Zhang Han. It's done, Shin Group stock price has been locked in pre-market, the major asset restructuring announcement will be released tomorrow. At that very moment, Shin Zhaoting's phone began ringing frantically. He fumbled to answer it, and the panicked voice of his assistant came through the line. Chairman Shin, it's a disaster. All of our company's accounts have been frozen. The board members are going crazy, demanding to know what's going on. Chairman Shin, officials from the Tax Bureau and the Securities Regulatory Commission are here. They say they're launching a full investigation into the company. Chairman Shin. One call after another rang out, each one a death knell. Shin Zhaoting's face turned from ashen pale to the color of death. His hand, clutching the phone, trembled uncontrollably until, with a sharp clatter, it fell to the floor. He raised his head, his eyes fixed on me with a bloodshot, predatory stare that seemed ready to devour me whole. Feng Ci, you're utterly ruthless, ruthless. I set down my teacup, stood up, and looked down at him from my full height. Compared to you parading your mistress and illegitimate child, humiliating my brother, threatening my entire family, and forcing me to leave with nothing, what are my little tactics in the face of that? You brought all of this on yourself. I turned and walked towards the door. Behind me came the deafening crash of tables and chairs toppling over. Shin Zhaoting lunged forward, trying to grab me, but his legs gave way and he fell to the floor in a clumsy heap. He knelt there, looking up at me. All the confidence and vigor he once possessed had vanished, replaced only by eyes full of despair and terror. Feng Ci, don't, for our son's sake, give me one more chance, son. I stopped in my tracks, turned to look at him, and smiled. Shin Zhaoting, you remember we have a son. Where were you when I was taking him abroad, seeking treatment everywhere, trying to cure his autism? Where were you when he spent his 10th birthday all alone, crying for his father, when you were wrapped up in your romance with Lin Hui? Did you ever spare a thought for your son? What gives you the right to talk to me about our son now? With every word I spoke, the color drained further from his face. He slumped to the ground, unable to utter a single word. Shin Zhaoting, don't you just love playing daddy to other people? I looked at him, my eyes utterly devoid of warmth. Starting tomorrow, you'll have all the time in the world to be some other kid's cheap, stand-in father. Best of luck. 10. I didn't look back at the mess I'd left behind. Stepping out of Junhui Mansion, the cool night breeze felt refreshing against my face. The gloom that had been weighing on my heart for days was swept clean away. The next day, the financial news in the capital exploded. Shin Zhaoting, chairman of the Shin Group, has been placed under investigation for suspected multiple financial crimes. The group's shares have been suspended from trading and it faces a major asset restructuring. Rumors suggest serious internal disputes within the Shin Group, and its actual controlling stake may change hands. The news sent shockwaves through the entire business world. Meanwhile, the other key figures in the scandal, Lin Hui and her daughter Shinyin, were unceremoniously thrown out of the Shin family's ancestral home the moment Shin Zhaoting fell from power. Rumor has it that when they left, all their designer clothes and jewelry were stripped from them, leaving them in nothing but plain, ordinary garments, a truly pitiful sight. Refusing to accept their fate, they stormed the headquarters of the Shin Group, causing a scene and wailing that they were Shin Zhaoting's wife and daughter, demanding to see him. In the end, they were mistaken for troublemaking lunatics and thrown out by security. Their sweet dream was utterly shattered. Without Shin Zhaoting as their backer, they were nothing. All this news came from Zhang Han. I listened, but didn't have much of a reaction. Every villain meets his match at the Research Institute. That official document suspending the project had been taken down. Director Li personally stepped in to clarify the previous misunderstanding and announced that the Morning Star project would receive even greater support. Feng Yu's research group was once again buzzing with its usual energy. When I went to see him, he was in the lab with his team members, deep in discussion over some data. Seeing me, he came out, wearing a slightly awkward and uncomfortable expression. Sis, I saw the news. He paused. Thank you, silly boy. No need to be so formal with me. I ruffled his hair. From now on, no one will dare bully you again. He gave a firm, heavy nod, his eyes glistening. The once timid and inarticulate boy seemed to have matured overnight, weathered by the storm. He stood a little taller, his back a little straighter. Oh, right, he said, as if remembering something, and pulled an object from his pocket to hand to me. It was the ring that had been thrown into the fish tank. Sis, I think I should give this back to you. He gave a bitter smile, returning it to its rightful owner. I looked at the ring but did not take it. Feng Yu, let bygones be bygones. this ring is my blessing to you, a wish that you find someone who truly knows how to cherish and appreciate you. As for its former owner, they were never worthy. Throw it away, or keep it, the choice is yours. Look ahead, you deserve better. Fang Yu looked at me, fell silent for a long moment, and then solemnly put the ring back into his pocket. I understand, sis. Finally, a look of relief spread across his face. 11. It took me nearly a month to clean up the mess Shin Zhaoting left behind. The Shin Group was completely liquidated and restructured under the name of a trust fund. I acquired its most valuable assets in the new energy and biotech sectors, consolidating them into a new entity called Qiming Technologies. As for the remaining real estate and traditional manufacturing assets, I bundled them all together and sold them off at a low price. A portion of the proceeds was transferred directly to Shin Zhaoting's personal account as his pension fund. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to keep him comfortable for the rest of his life, provided he lived frugally. When Zhang Han came to have me sign the final document, he couldn't help but sigh with feeling. Dr. Fang, that move of yours was a masterstroke, decisive, precise, and utterly devastating. Shin Zhaoting is a man of some standing in the capital, yet he couldn't even last a single round against you. I smiled but said nothing. It wasn't that he couldn't last, it was that he chose the wrong battlefield from the very beginning. He thought it was a matter of romantic entanglement, a family dispute, but he didn't know that for someone like me, marriage can be a partnership, a collaboration, but it is never my whole world. He tried to use emotions to trap me, to use family to coerce me, but he was doomed to fail, because what I have in abundance is the courage to cut all ties. Oh, right, Zhang Han added. Lin Hui and Shanine came to see me at the law firm a few days ago. Oh, I was a bit surprised. What did they want? To try and squeeze some money out of me, more or less. Zhang Han's expression was a picture of mixed emotions. They said they have evidence of Shin Zhaoting's marital infidelity and can help us with the lawsuit, on the condition that we give them a share of the assets. I almost laughed in disbelief. That mother and daughter pair are laughably naive. How did you respond? I told them that Mr. Shin had left with nothing, and he's poorer than they are now. If they're willing, I can offer free legal assistance to help them sue Mr. Shin for emotional damages over all these years, and then they left, cursing and grumbling all the way. I can just picture the scene. All their scheming came to nothing in the end. I wonder if they ever wake in the dead of night, haunted by regret for what they did, but I have no interest in finding out. Their lives are no longer any concern of mine. 12. After the storm had passed, my life settled back into its familiar rhythm. The institute, the lab, home, a simple, straightforward routine for the day-to-day operations of Dawn Technologies. I've hired a professional CEO team to manage them. My role is solely to oversee the major strategic direction at the board level. My focus has always remained on scientific research. That afternoon, I was in my office reviewing the latest experimental data when an unknown number called. I hesitated for a moment, but answered it anyway. On the other end of the line was a hesitant, timid voice. Is this Aunt Fang CI? I was stunned. That voice, Enin, it's me, Auntie. On the other end of the line, Shin Yin's voice was choked with tears. Auntie, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Can you ever forgive me? I fell silent. My mom, she gambled away all our money, lost everything, and now she's deep in debt. We don't even have a place to live anymore. Auntie, please, will you help me? For my sake, for Fang Yu's sake. How dare she even mention Fang Yu? A wave of disgust rose within me. Shanine, I cut her off coldly. If you called your father, or my brother, then I might actually consider it, but you called me. You've got the wrong person. I'm no saint. I won't waste my sympathy on someone who once hurt my family so viciously. The mess you're in today is a choice you and your mother made. You have no one else to blame. You're on your own now. With that, I hung up and blocked the number. It's not that I lack compassion, but my compassion comes at a high price. I would never waste it on someone like that. 13. After wrapping everything up, I took a long vacation. I flew to Switzerland to visit my son, Nianshin. 5 years had passed, and the once somewhat solitary, quiet little boy had grown into a handsome young man. He stood in the sunlight, wearing a crisp white shirt, and smiled at me. Mom. He opened his arms and gave me a big hug. My eyes welled up with tears. All these years, I've been so caught up in my career, in all those complicated disputes. I've let him down so much. I'm sorry. How? Mom, you don't have to apologize. He let go of me and looked at me intently. I know everything. You did the right thing. His gaze was clear and steady. filled with understanding and support for me. The final weight in my heart was finally lifted. We spent 2 weeks in Switzerland. During the day, I would accompany him to classes, the library, and concerts. In the evenings, we cooked together, chatted, and shared stories about our lives. Over the years, he told me he had completely moved past the shadow of his autism, made many friends at school, and even became a key member of the fencing team. His dream is to get into the physics department at Cambridge and explore the mysteries of the universe. Mom, he said, looking at me with sparkling eyes, I want to be just like you. I smiled. No, you'll be even better than me. Before I left Switzerland, Shen Yan saw me off at the airport. Mom, from now on, don't force yourself to endure things or people who aren't worth it. He gave me a hug. You have me, okay. I nodded firmly. That's right. I still have him. I still have my family who loves me, and the career I'm passionate about. My life is just beginning. 14. The first thing I did after returning home was to go to the Shen family's old house. Shen Zhaoting was here, stripped of his corporate power and the entourage of subordinates. He aged rapidly. The once high-spirited business titan was now just an ordinary man with graying temples and hollow eyes. Seeing me, he showed neither surprise nor anger, just sitting numbly on the sofa. What are you doing here? His voice was hoarse and dry. I came to see you. I sat down across from him. I'm also here to say a final goodbye. The corner of his mouth twitched into a scornful smile. Farewell. Didn't you cut me out of your world a long time ago? Shen Zhaoting, I said, looking at him calmly. We've been married for over a decade. While there's no love between us, I've always considered you a competent partner. I respect your ambition, and I admire your capabilities. I thought we could be the perfect team, each excelling in our own domain, and then hand over a stronger Shen corporation to Nyenyen. But you've let me down so completely. You're not just a bad husband, you're not even a decent father. Your own jealousy and insecurity have blinded you, leading you to do all these foolish things. You lost, not to me, but to your own pettiness and stupidity. He jolted, his head snapping up to fix me with an intense stare. That gaze held shock, remorse, and bitter reluctance, a tumult of emotions. After a long moment, his head dropped in defeat, his shoulders slumping. Yeah, he muttered to himself, I've lost. I lost a long time ago. The moment he started to envy me, he had already lost. I stood up. Without saying another word, nothing more needed to be said. I stepped out of the house that had been the shell of my 10-year marriage in name only. The sunlight outside was perfect. I took a deep breath. The air tasted of freedom. 15. 1 year later, Dawn Technologies has successfully listed on the Nasdaq, with its market capitalization surpassing 100 billion, establishing itself as a global leader in the new energy sector. As the founder and largest shareholder, I was invited to ring the opening bell. Standing under the spotlight, I looked out at the sea of faces in the audience, feeling a profound sense of calm. To me, all this fame, glory, and wealth are merely the icing on the cake. What truly matters to me are the research projects at the Institute, each one poised to change the world. After the bell-ringing ceremony, I received a call from Feng Yu backstage on the other end of the line. His voice was brimming with joy. Sis, our new material, the experiment was a success. Its performance exceeds the theoretical data by a full 15%. Really, that's fantastic. This news excites me more than the company going public. Sis, you have to come back soon. We're all waiting to throw you a victory party. Okay, I'll be back tomorrow. After hanging up the phone, I saw the message from Director Li. Xiao Ci, congratulations, you are the greatest pride of our Academy of Sciences. I smiled and replied to him, thank you, Director Li. I just did what I had to do. My phone screen lit up, showing the lock screen wallpaper. In the photo were me, Feng Yu, my mom, and Shen Hao. The four of us were standing beneath the Swiss snow-capped mountains. Beaming with joy, as I looked at the photo, the smile on my lips grew even softer. Shen Zhaoting, Lin Hui, Shenyin, those people, those events, had long been left behind me, reduced to insignificant dust. There are more important things to do in my life, and more important people to love. I put away my phone, turned around, and melted into the crowd. The road ahead is long, and the sun is shining bright. My life is full of boundless possibilities. The end. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe.